This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
Okay, get into it. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember what you're doing. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Welcome again to Lembit Öpik Live here on Unprecedented TV, where we find the facts, kill the spin, and tell it like it is on the stories all around the world. We do our best to give you those facts, and we share our opinions freely, but ne'er the two shall meet. You'll know when we're giving you our views, so that you can make up your own mind. That's the secret of free speech, and we do not run away from freedom of expression, and we trust you to be smart enough to make your own decisions. That's at the heart of the ethos of Unprecedented TV. Thank you so much for joining. If you haven't subscribed to our Unprecedented TV on YouTube, please do so. The numbers are growing. The more we have, the more we can create by way of great news and views, and eventually arts and culture as well. Well, I want to talk about something which is very salient at the moment. It's the Gaza situation. Israel and Gaza have been dancing around the concept of a peace, not least because President Trump has forced them into it. More specifically, Trump has said to his friend, in inverted commas, Benjamin Netanyahu, that it's time to broker a peace. And in an embarrassing humiliation, Trump actually made Netanyahu phone up and apologize to the Qatari government for a daylight bombing raid. Why did that happen? Because Trump and Qatar are very good friends indeed. So essentially, Netanyahu bombed Trump's mates. That's a really big mistake. And Netanyahu paid for it with a crashing public relations climb down. And we'll have a look at a picture of that during the show. So where do we stand? If you're watching this live, you're likely to be watching it on the day when the hostages, not the sausages, as Keir Starmer said, we'll come to that in a moment too, but the hostages are returned to dead and alive. That's going to be a momentous day, a huge development. But essentially, Hamas is accepting on trust that Donald Trump has been able to broker a lasting peace. Of course, they'll be none too pleased if Netanyahu takes the hostages and resumes the festivities. In other words, the killing and the bombing and the the destruction of property, or what's left of it, in Gaza. So where do we stand with this? Is this going to be lasting peace? Once again, you have the luxury of watching this again on the archive. You'll know how accurate my predictions are, and also those of my guest, Warren Thornton, who joins us in just a minute. Let me make a prediction to start with. This is a big breakthrough, but within 24 hours of the return of the hostages, we'll have a pretty good idea if Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, intends to resume his bombing campaign, perhaps at a lower level, who knows, or if he's actually going to honor the peace. I would say it won't take longer than that, because if for that crucial day the guns remain silent, then maybe, just maybe, we're making significant progress. Of course, there's a long and rocky road to go, and we'll talk about the question of what's called a two-state solution, having Palestine and Israel coexisting, and whether that's possible. I think it is possible, but it's going to take the might, the charm, and the strength of Donald Trump to deliver it. Well, let's see what my guest thinks about this now. As always, as usual on a Monday, it's Warren Thornton. How is life over there in the Philippines, Warren?
It's absolutely fine. Thank you very much. We're coming pretty much, or we're getting very close to the end of the season, where we get all sorts of nasty stuff. We've had a couple of large earthquakes, but we're all doing fine.
Earthquakes?
Yes, we had a 7.6 just the other day. Of course, in Mindanao, and that followed up on the earthquake from Cebu only a week or so ago. But thankfully, it was lateral rather than vertical, so not too many. Couple dead, quite a few injured, but not as bad as it could have been.
Oh, I didn't realize you had those, but I suppose you are in an earthquake zone there. Is it the Ring of Fire?
It is, yes, the Ring of Fire. Of course, we're on the edge of the Philippines plate. So, of course, there was one in Cebu, which was around about a 5.8, 5.7, 5.8. But that killed over 60 people because it was a vertical one up and down rather than lateral. When it's lateral, you don't tend to get tsunamis and you don't tend to get too much damage. But, of course, when they're up and down, when they're vertical quakes, then you do have a problem.
Well, we've got earthquakes, or at least seismic activity in a political sense, going on with Gaza. And frankly, no earthquake could have caused the ruins which Israel has meted out on Gaza. But let's start at the big picture. Donald Trump seems to be absolutely instrumental in the progress. There's Trump once again in his power position, doing some kind of a fist hug. I know what you'd call that. Not exactly a fist pump with Netanyahu. Let's start with how you perceive the situation. Once again, if you're watching this live, it's on a very important day because the hostages are meant to be returned, the dead ones and the living, to Hostages Square. That's where I guess they'll all end up. But Trump has been absolutely central to this, hasn't he, Warren?
Yeah, he has. I would have a note of caution. I'm different from you, Lembit. I've got Jared Kushner on the brain, who is, of course, Trump's son-in-law, and he's been very, very instrumental in this deal. And, of course, the new rebuild that's going to go on in Gaza. And I am very, very skeptical about, one, the ceasefire holding, because they've already unleashed some bombs and stuff in southern Lebanon. And, of course, Israeli boats have fired at people that are returning. And my problem with this is I would like to know what Gazans are going to be able to afford the buildings that they're forecast to build in this new greater Israel. And, of course, the Palestine that is going to happen. We do know that some flights to the UK and various other European countries have had Syrians and Palestinians on them that have accepted money not to return. So I do have a wonder where this is going to go. At the moment, it all sounds good on paper, but let's see what the proof of the pudding is a bit later on.
We've only just started the program, and already you're soothsaying. Turn that frown upside down, Warren. I am more optimistic, but before we go into that, let's set the scene. It seems to me that one of the great blunders that Netanyahu did, and he might have made quite a few, was to bomb Qatar, the big pals of Donald Trump. They went in there trying to wipe out the high command of Qatar, and we were told, sorry, not Qatar, of Hamas in Qatar. We were told at the time that the actual bombing raid was authorized by Netanyahu and known to Trump. Do you believe that?
I do believe that at the time it was known. Very simply, if you're going to be taking off from any Air Force base like that, then I'm afraid everybody has to be in the know. The fact that they're thinking that Israel are good at taking the blame for this, you see, when they did hit Iran, of course, America knew full well, and we did publish ahead of time, that they would hit Iran. And, of course, the United States would get Israel to take the blame for it. There is no question that Netanyahu is, shall we say, off the leash, and that Trump is trying to hold on to him. Netanyahu does seem to be one of those people who's... And, of course, we've just had this come out, Lembit, haven't we, about the fact that certain states knew about what was going on, of course, with everything, with what was happening in Gaza. So that, of course, tends to put a bit of downer on it. I hope, for the sake of all parties concerned, that they can actually, shall we say, make this, because some of the stuff, of course, that the British have been up to has not helped us in any way whatsoever.
Let's look at move on. Let's finish the Qatar attack. What's confusing here is there's smoke rising from the hit, which clearly Netanyahu hoped would wipe out the high command of Hamas living in Qatar. But
yes,
it's if Donald Trump knew about it, why did he get so angry that he actually made Netanyahu phone up and apologize to Qatar?
Yeah, well, it looks good on the world stage for me, Lembit. I know. Call me an old cynic.
You old cynic.
And you're absolutely right. I am an old cynic, but we'll have to wait and see what comes of that. Now, if it is one of those where they're going to retreat beyond that line. But as you were talking about the Qatari strike, the fact that Israel were going to carry this out and Qatar didn't know a thing about it. Now, you were saying about the peace deal there, okay? But they were talking to Qatar and talking to Hamas and saying, go to this building in Qatar and we'll talk peace, like they did with Iran. And then what they did was they bombed it. So can they be trusted?
Well, it seems to me there's a mystery in this, because Donald Trump famously made Benjamin Netanyahu, there he is, right, Benjamin Netanyahu, phone up the Qataris and apologize. Look at him. Trump's sitting there like he's sitting next to a 15-year-old schoolboy in the head office, phoning up to apologize to parents of a kid that Netanyahu was bullying. There's no ambiguity in that picture. That's a humiliating situation that Trump's put Netanyahu in. Why would he have done that if he was aware of the fact Netanyahu was going to do it beforehand?
Well, let me throw this right back at you, Lembit. When he could have done that off camera and without anybody there to record it, when he could have just turned around to him and picked up the phone, given him a dressing down and saying, phone the Qataris now and don't you dare ever do it again. That could have been done all behind closed doors. This looks like it's played for the cameras for me.
But it doesn't help Netanyahu. He looks weak. He looks like he's being subservient to Trump. And what little I know about Benjamin Netanyahu is this: the last thing he wants to do is show weakness.
Yes. Here's the thing, though. If you're getting what you want, Lembit, and you have to swallow the odd pill, then you're going to do that, aren't you?
I just don't think that adds up. And not for the first time. I dispute your analysis. I think Trump maybe was vaguely aware of what he was going to do, but just didn't realize the implications or how seriously they were going to do it. Maybe that he thought they were going to do some more surreptitious thing that wasn't so in your face. This was a broad daylight bombing raid on the Hamas high command in Qatar. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Qatar has been very generous to Donald Trump in these last months.
Yes, it has. And of course, but that doesn't really match in with what the Israelis do, does it? The Israelis and the Americans walk hand in hand most of the time. You have to remember that half of the Congress is owned, or 3/4 of the Congress, or almost all of it, I should say, to be totally accurate, take AIPAC money. And of course, at the end of the day, you've got Jared Kushner, you've got photographs of Vitkoff and them at the wall, you've got Melania Trump at the wall. I can't see any way that America didn't know that this was going to happen. I'm sorry, I know we disagree on this, but I can't see any way that America didn't know that, given the symbiosis between the two and the fact that they both, how can I put this? Trump might have been annoyed at the actual carrying out of it or whatever, but the fact that other factions of America didn't know, in other words, non-Trump factions, didn't know, is beyond belief.
Well, okay. On this point, it's been done now. But on this point, and the only reason I dwell on it, Warren, is because on this point, I think that what's happening here is a clear statement of hierarchy, and whether Trump knew or realized the implications or not, Trump has used this opportunity to show Netanyahu and the world who's boss, because everybody is saying that Donald Trump has forced Netanyahu to do things he doesn't want to do, such as having some kind of a peace and actually materially withdrawing his Israeli Defense Force to new and smaller boundaries.
Yes, you're absolutely right on that. On the other side of that coin, and I think you're absolutely right. I think he has reined Netanyahu in. I think you're absolutely right about I think everybody's right about the reports that he has done. Why are you so negative and this, that, and the other? I wouldn't be surprised if that phone call took place at all, even though they're denying it. It is beyond belief that either John Ratcliffe of the CIA, Susie Weiss, who is massively in the pro-Israel camp, and Marco Rubio of the State Department, which we know the State Department has done many things without Trump's knowledge. The fact that when we tried to say that none of them knew this event was going to happen, I would be staggered if that was the case. That Trump didn't know, I'll concede that to you all day long. But the fact that the whole of America didn't know, or certainly the people who are in the pocket of Israel, I would say that could certainly
Okay,
be.
well, in that case, although it wasn't really the central thing I wanted to talk with you about today, we have found some kind of an alignment here that Donald Trump may not have known. Donald Trump may not have known, and that would have incensed him because the Qataris have been very generous to Trump, and he's not going to let Netanyahu bomb his pals in the Middle East.
Yes, absolutely, because they just gave him a lovely jet, didn't they?
Yeah, a Boeing 747. They gave him back an American plane, a jumbo jet, which drove the security forces absolutely crazy. They said, "Oh, how can you trust this? There could be bugs on it. There could be people hiding in the woodwork or metalwork." That's kind of interesting. I'm not quite clear if Trump did actually take the plane or not. That wasn't clear to me.
I don't see why not. I mean, it's not like we haven't had American presidents taking gifts before. Now, is it Biden's and the Obamas and the Clintons, especially the Clintons? But here we have a problem, because I genuinely believe that the State Department at times works behind, or should we say, without the consultation of Donald Trump. And of course, they can quite easily deny it and go, "Oh well, we didn't know." But the fact that the whole of America didn't know what was going to happen, they certainly knew with the bombing of the Iranians, because of course they said, "Oh, Israel have just fired." We told the world a week before it was going to happen that America were going to get Israel to take the fall for them bombing the Iranians on behalf of America. So the fact that they completely shut America out of this, can't believe that. I do concede that Trump may not have known, but the rest of America didn't know, or shall we say the Israelites in the cabinet didn't know. I'd be very surprised.
So then we've got Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been laughing a lot all the way to showing himself to be a strong guy. But now that laughter's probably not quite so pronounced as in this picture. I got the feeling he's not that happy about being forced into this position, and all his warm words about thanking Donald Trump and everything else is a bit like when Vladimir Zelensky says, "Oh, I thank the president very much." He's having to say it like a naughty schoolboy again.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And of course, every time that you get these what I would call crazy warmongers having to bend the knee, or shall we say bite the bullet, whichever analogy you like, someone normally pays for that. And that, for me, is going to be the Palestinians, the same as the Ukrainians paid for it when, of course, Zelensky had to bend the knee. If you remember, when he got told off by Trump in the White House, he sent loads and loads of men into battle who then got absolutely, he took it out on the villagers of the Russians in Kursk and everything else, and various other areas. I think that I can't see Netanyahu and his cabinet, because remember, he's got people like Ben-Gvir and people like that in his cabinet who are utter war hawks and just literally want to get rid of every single Palestinian that is anywhere near, shall we say, Gaza Strip or the West Bank.
That doesn't bode very well for these peace talks, which we'll talk about in a moment. But okay, the story so far then. Netanyahu overreached somehow in Qatar. Trump got mad about it. Trump made him apologize and said, "And you're going to have a peace." Meanwhile, the Middle Eastern states seem to be leaning on Hamas to toe the line. And we've got to a point here on the show, which in the archive people can watch back and see if we are right or wrong, that something's going to happen. And I think the hostages, dead and alive, will be returned, Warren.
Yes, they've got the hostages, dead or alive, to be returned, and I think that's absolutely fine. The Israelis are refusing to give back a doctor who criticised them, and of course that might be a sticking point. We're hoping it's not going to be a sticking point with a bit of luck. But the Israelis, of course, will be their own masters, and they will do whatever they see fit, Lembit. It won't be... there will be sticking points here. There's going to be talk. And as for Starmer going across, I find it incredible that he's even going anywhere near Egypt.
We're going to come to that after the break. You're watching Lembit Öpik Live here on Unprecedented TV with investigative journalist Warren Thornton and myself, not agreeing on every point, but generally saying that Trump has forced Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, into talks, into cutting the bombing and the shooting and the destruction of Gaza, withdrawing his troops, while Hamas has to lay down its arms. Will it work? And to what extent is Keir Starmer justified in going over to be involved? Well, that's the big question I want to ask after this break. Now, I made a promise to one of our favorite presenters, and that is, I'm just looking to see if she's, if we've got this lined up. We do. It's Claire Dyer. She's incredible. Takes huge personal risks in the work that she does for us. Essentially, she does dire consequences, and it's not dire consequences for her. It's dire consequences when things go wrong in our society, and she's trying to put them right. I've had a long talk with her, and I'm so impressed with the work that she's doing. We want to get you all to watch her show. So this week, I am going to exclusively cover and advertise Claire Dyer's show, Dire Consequences, which we run at the moment twice. We might be running it more often as well. Take a look at this. It's a great series. Claire Dyer gets some fantastic guests and talks about very difficult subjects, everything from child abuse through to lies told by Transport for London, through to terrible behavior by the police authorities. Do watch it, Claire Dyer. And if you do like it, once again, please do subscribe to Unprecedented TV on YouTube, and you'll find us on X as well. But let's get back to the subject today. I'm talking with Warren Thornton, the investigative journalist, our man in Manila. It's really the Philippines, but it sounds better if we put it like that, Warren. And I'm grateful for once, judging by your improved signal, you're not in the middle of a tropical storm.
No, it's very nice when you're actually not. And when we say our man in Manila, it's pretty close. I'm only 30 kilometers away.
Oh, really? Oh, that's very close.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, man, you're the thriller in Manila in that case as well. And we're talking about the situation, the story so far in the peace talks between Israel and Palestine. Donald Trump is the progenitor, the main mover that's forcing things to happen. And a whole lot of people are beginning to get involved, flying from all over the place to be in that photo opportunity in Egypt, I understand. Let's remind ourselves, Warren, of the brilliant contribution that the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, made about the return of the hostages. Who can forget this?
All parties to pull back from the brink. I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Oh dear. Every time I see that, it's just road crash TV. How can he make a mistake like that? The return of the sausages? I mean, honestly.
You have to wonder if that speech was made after a late breakfast, don't you? The problem is, you know, or either that or he just had a couple before he was shooting around and doing the speech.
I think you're being charitable. I think the answer is he absolutely screwed it up. One of the biggest lines in his speech, return of the sausages.
You've got to say, Lembit, that he has a history of screwing up, so it's not to be unexpected. The problem that I have with Starmer going anywhere near this deal is you have to remember that this guy allowed flights from Akatiri Air Base in Cyprus from British planes to help with the targeting of refugee camps in Gaza for the Israelis.
Is that absolutely proven?
It's absolutely nailed in stone. absolutely nailed in stone. If anybody wants to come on from the British government, I've literally got the proof that can knock them out of the water.
And you've covered that on your show, WarrenThornton.com.
Yes, absolutely. We've shown flight after flight after flight on Flight Tracker, the radar, absolutely everything. There are many other outlets that have talked about it, Declassified TV, Redacted, and many others. But here's the problem that we have. The very idea that you would do that is not going to make his presence welcome there, I wouldn't have thought, Lembit.
Go on.
Sorry, just to let you know that Iran have already turned around and said that they won't be taking part in the talks, even though they were invited.
Why is that?
They don't, but for instance, they have they won't even sit in the same room as the United States. They certainly won't sit in the same room as Keir Starmer. They don't trust him at all.
Yeah, so he's summoned to fly to Egypt for summit to mark Gaza peace plan, and the subtext: Prime Minister will pay particular tribute to Donald Trump, who's reportedly attending the gathering on a wider visit to the Middle East. Well, that's a bit rich, isn't it? Considering he sent 100 current and former workers of the Labour Party to try and defeat Donald Trump in the presidential elections. They wanted Kamala Harris to win. This whole thing, this sucking up to Trump now is so blatantly vapid and inauthentic.
It is vapid and inauthentic, or unauthentic is absolutely correct. Not only did they send 100 workers across to help stump for Kamala Harris and help with the work there, and they stayed the other side of the line of direct interference, but it was interference nonetheless. And when we talk about interference, he turned around and said, and this is to quote him, a historic turning point for the region after 2 years of conflict and bloodshed. Bloodshed that he helped with the targeting of refugee camps in Gaza. I mean, the insincerity and the downright two-facedness of this guy is beyond belief. But then we've come to expect nothing better from this, as you said, this vapid monster that currently is crushing free speech in the UK and is helping out anybody that wants to carry out all sorts of silly things, whether that's Ukraine or Israel.
Yeah, well, I'm tempted to talk about Ukraine, but probably stay away from it because it's a whole different subject. We won't finish in time.
Yes.
But then, first of all, I agree on this completely. Keir Starmer is really turning up in Egypt accidentally to remind everybody he has had no influence, no positive role, that he's supported both sides. First, he said for the first 2 years, Israel's got a right to defend itself. And then he says, I'm going to recognize Palestine, which is exactly how you annoy both sides. First of all, he irritated his own hard left, which is very pro-Palestine. Then he irritates the Zionist and the pro-Israeli contingent by saying that he's going to recognize Palestine. The man has just got this mission drift. It doesn't seem to me he's got any kind of a cohesive narrative. Otherwise, he wouldn't say the two things, to almost diametrically opposed things when you think about the audiences he was trying to please.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And let's be absolutely honest here. I mean, it's just words, isn't it? And to Starmer, who is this West globalist agenda puppet, it is just words. He doesn't mean a single word of it. When he says, I recognize Palestine, he might as well turn around and say, I baked a cake yesterday. It would have the same impact because, of course, he doesn't mean a damn word that he says. If he turns around and says, I recognize Palestine, but he's still helping Israel with airstrikes. Remember, this is a guy who accepted £50,000 from Trevor Chin, who is an Israel lobbyist. And, of course, there is nowhere to go with this. This is a guy who got Corbyn and Chris Williamson and everybody else out of the Labour Party because he said they were anti-Semitic. So he plays whichever side he's there. He doesn't have, it's all right not having a side, Lembit, but when you switch from one side to the other, that is totally unacceptable.
And on top of that, his big buddy Emmanuel Macron's also making the journey. A man who's had all kinds of problems at home. He's got Le Cornu, the prime minister who resigned back as prime minister. I mean, it's just ridiculous ridiculous X message out saying the difference between the Cornu and it's really a prediction that the difference between the Cornu and the Titanic is that the Titanic only sank once. So he's got all this trouble. He's got all this trouble going on, and he's still going to fly off to Egypt in order to be seen in the photo shoot again. You'd think that the guy might stay at home just to try to shore up his own support, but no, he doesn't seem to be too worried about that.
They don't want to stay at home either, and none of these want to stay at home. Starmer doesn't want to stay at home. Macron doesn't want to stay at home because both countries' economies are in the toilet, and they're the most unpopular people that have ever been. I mean, this is the second coming, isn't it, if you like, or King Le Cornu the second, as they're calling him. It is Einstein's definition of insanity, isn't it? Keep doing the same thing over and over again and hope for a different result. I mean, what he thinks he's doing here, I have no idea. This is when we call it, people call it the coalition of the willing. I call it the coalition of the clueless because they don't have the first idea of what they're doing.
Yeah, it's also hugely ironic that Keir Starmer, the most unpopular prime minister in British history, making Liz Truss look comparatively popular, links up with one of the most unpopular French presidents in history, Emmanuel Macron, and then they both go to Egypt, even though neither of them has done anything positive, whatever, to try to deliver this result. If you're right about the bombing, all they actually did in a way was potentially make it worse. But there's no prospect whatever, Warren, as far as I can see, that either Emmanuel Macron nor Keir Starmer could claim that they had the slightest influence on Benjamin Netanyahu or on Hamas, really. Though some, of course, say, oh, well, the recognition of the Palestine state will have made a difference, but I don't see that.
No, absolutely not. Hamas trust them about as much as the Israelis do, and the Iranians trust them not at all. You have to remember, you probably get good odds on the fact that Starmer has probably spent more time outside of the UK in the last 6 weeks than he has in it. For the simple fact that he's so unpopular at home, he doesn't want to be here.
Maybe he's trying to avoid tax. Maybe he's trying to avoid tax.
Neither does Macron, neither does Merz. Every single one of these European leaders are the most unpopular leaders, I think, that you've ever seen across the country. Macron's hanging on by his fingernails, hoping that Merz will take von der Leyen, who, of course, has her own problems, to be...
Hang on a second. Merz being the Prime Minister of Germany, and von der Leyen being the failed politician who now tries to run the European Union.
Yes, and then, of course, what will happen is Merz will take von der Leyen under his wing, and she'll be given a position in Germany, and Macron will be shunted sideways as the head of the EU. The problem is that Macron's going to try and hold on by his fingernails, but of course, there's no way with Le Pen not being able to run, and falsely being accused of this, that, and the other, so that they banned her from running. Le Pen is now out for blood, and she's like a shark in the water. So is Alice Weidel of the AfD, and of course, so is Nigel Farage, of Reform. Every single one of them are out for blood.
Le Pen is in charge of the Rally National Rally, National Front in France. Very popular, and actually willfully being kept out of power by the others, which I think is the reason that Macron has so many problems now, because he's essentially made the parliament unworkable by trying to keep out one of the largest blocs from any power. It's just nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. Merz tried to do the same with the AfD or the AfD. He tried to have that outlawed. So, of course, Alice Weidel is out for blood. And Alice Weidel, her popularity keeps rising because she's turned around and said, I am not going to back any wars whatsoever. Not Israel. I'm not going to back Ukraine. We're going to look after Germany because Germany is in such trouble.
So that's the backdrop here. That's why I discussed this with you, because it seems to me unwise for Starmer and Macron and maybe Merz to all fly over to Egypt just to remind us that they had no role whatever in forcing what might be a peace accord. And I accept that you're less positive about it than me.
Yeah, this is a get out of jail free card. It's, oh look, there's a peace party going on. Let's get over there and get our photographs taken, because if we stay at home, we know it's going to be negative. Let's get it. Let's go. I mean, these guys would turn up to the opening of an envelope at the moment. They're that unpopular, you know. And it's like there's something really positive going on. Let's be part of that, because we are so unpopular and it's so anti or so negative in their own country.
So we need to finish on thinking about what the upside is. Gaza, I'm told, is essentially a bomb site. It looks like the worst parts of Berlin after the end of World War II. And there's a lot of footage which looks absolutely dismal. It's impossible to grasp how that might feel.
Yes.
If that's where you used to live and suddenly there's nothing there. How can you rebuild that?
Well, you're not supposed to, Lembit. Let's not forget that Israel had lots and lots of bulldozers in there, and they've moved settlers in. They were selling parcels of land before they'd even flattened it. And of course, there are many auctions. If you go and have a look, there are many auctions that you can actually go to where they've actually sold this. Now,
are you serious? You can actually once again back that up.
Absolutely. I have the videos to back that up. I also have the prospectuses to back that up as well, that were actually given to people where they were selling parcels of land before they'd even occupied it.
Wow. I haven't heard that from anyone else. I mean, just look at it. Just look at that. Those buildings can't be fixed, can they?
No. And the whole idea is to bulldoze it because, of course, I don't know whether you've seen the plan for the Gaza Strip, but there is a 2035 plan out there which has people, billionaires, coming in and helping the rebuild and everything else, and lots of money being allocated. And of course, it becomes, in the end, the seafront becomes a billionaire's playground. So the fact that everybody thinks this ceasefire will hold, it won't, because the coastal property is going to be the most important. And at the moment, the line for Israel is far back. It would be interesting to see by 2035, when all this building work is to be completed in this shining new city in Gaza, which becomes, if you like, the Monaco of the Middle East, when this is all completely done and everything else. And the fact that Jared Kushner and Vitkov are over in Israel talking to Netanyahu about this sort of gives you a big heads up. So unbelievably, I am very, very skeptical about where this goes, Lembit, while everybody else is celebrating a peace.
Well, yes, when you look at the level of devastation, it really is just phenomenal. And here's the other thing. The bodies in the rubble.
Yes.
This estimate is 14,000 dead. That's an Al Jazeera estimate.
That's a very small estimate. Yeah.
What would you say it is?
I would say that the body. But when we talked about the Ukraine dead and everything that goes on with them, they always say, and having worked with aid workers as well, they say for every two bodies that are dead, two people that are dead, there is one body still not yet found. So if you take the total amount of people that are dead in Gaza and then literally cut that in half, those are bits of bodies and bodies buried under rubble and everything else that you have yet to find or will never find because they're still missing.
That'd be over 100,000. And the official figure, I think, is 69,000. I still think that's a low estimate if you consider death from starvation and disease and lack of medical care. And the children have died as well. And,
so you can almost treble that, Lembit. If they're saying 69,000 dead, you can pretty much say about 34,500 will still be buried under the rubble. So you can double that figure.
You mean so over 100,000 dead out of a population of around 2 million? That's like, that's just 5%. That's 1 in 20 of the entire population dead.
And so many that will never go back, Lembit.
Yeah, 1 in 20. It's just, imagine if that happened in this country. That'd be something like 3 million dead in a war. 3 million people dead.
It
5
is
in every 100 people you know dead. So let's finish on. Well, I suppose I'm not sure it's a positive note. Pragmatic one.
Yes.
For those who are watching live, how do you think the next few days will play out? And obviously, then we can compare what we say with what happens.
I think this will hold for a little while. My personal view on this, and I know many don't share this view, this is a PR exercise to get Israel back on side, to get people feeling sorry. Israel's PR has never been so bad. It's never been so far in the toilet as it is at the moment. And of course, they have to have, shall we say, they need a PR win. This, of course, while praising Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize and everything else, and Netanyahu, and there'll be a wringing of hands and how great it is and everything else. But it won't last long, Lembit. I am going to turn around and say that this ceasefire will be broken after, either before or just after Christmas.
Okay, well, that's still quite long. I thought you were going to say it would just be a couple of weeks. I have to say...
Well, they've already broken it, but I mean full scale.
I think this might be a triumph of optimism over expectation. But I feel if we can get through the next few days, then it'll be very hard for Netanyahu to restart it. He might find some spurious reason, but he's going to annoy Trump even more. And he can't afford to do that because that's where the big bucks come from. We can see the utter impotence of Europe and the UK. They talk about it, but look what they've not done in Ukraine. There was all that coalition of the witless, I call them. You call them coalition of the clueless. Same thing, pretty much. But nothing's really happened. There's been no turnaround in Ukraine. I would say if Trump walks away, then Netanyahu is in desperate trouble. Then he becomes an isolated island in a sea of hate.
Well, what we have, here's Netanyahu's get-out clause. Now, you have to remember that this is a guy in 1970, not him, but Israel itself, pumped money into Hamas because they wanted to defeat the Palestine Liberation Organization. We know that they backed certain sects, shall we say, of Islamist, shall we say, rabid Islamists. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see a false flag on the scale of October the 7th.
Well,
and then
I just don't see that. I really don't.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. I actually think that Netanyahu can build bridges with his neighbors, and he probably needs to. And Trump clearly wants him to. Please don't bomb my friends, he basically said, rather stronger words. And I bet you he did use strong language against Netanyahu about the Qatar thing. I think that Trump wants to bring Iran in from the cold. That's a minority view, I know. But he obviously told Netanyahu to turn his planes around while they were in the air, going to bomb Iran. So I feel that the problem for Netanyahu is if he's seen to disrespect Trump, he's just going to provoke even more negative reaction. His only way out is to follow instructions from Washington.
Yep, and that's exactly what he will do. But the instructions, this is where you and I disagree, Lembit. The instructions won't come from Trump. He's got many, many friends, Netanyahu, that are not aligned with Trump, and they will talk Trump round. Have a look at the people that are still in his cabinet or the people that he looks to. He looks to Rubio. He looks to Susie Weiss. Every single person, you look at John Radcliffe, you look at Witkoff, you look at Jared Kushner, all very, very heavily Israel-based. And I would turn around and say, and as much as I hope I'm wrong, Lembit, I hope I'm wrong, this is not a ceasefire that will last. There is too much invested here, and there is too much working against Donald Trump. As much as you think Trump's a nice guy, and I'm sort of 50-50 on the fence with this, I think sometimes he is, sometimes he said some absolutely crazy stuff, but there are far too many bad people around him for this ceasefire to work.
Well, I hope it does. And by the way, it's not my mission to pariah Benjamin Netanyahu. What would be great is if a little bit, as happened between Israel and Egypt decades ago, some kind of a strange détente occurs, and Netanyahu does become a good neighbor and doesn't settle everything with bombs and guns. That's what I'd like. It's not like I'm wanting failure for Netanyahu, or certainly not for Israel. I think it's much more dangerous if Israel does end up feeling isolated and feels there's this ring of hate around him. That would be the worst thing, I would say.
Okay, well, I'll give you a prediction. The the Democrats don't get anywhere near in 2028. And remember this, what we're seeing is going to be done for 2035. So they've got plenty of time here. So 2028, Trump doesn't run again. It's between Vance and Rubio. And of course, which one can be the best friend to Israel? Rubio gets in. And I'm afraid Netanyahu gets let off the leash, and away we go again.
Okay, well, I really hope you're wrong. Well, we'll make sure this particular episode is in the archive for 2035. Let's see what happens then.
Hopefully AOC doesn't get in, but what have the Democrats got? They've got AOC or Gavin Newsom.
Yeah. AOC is a person, by the way, folks.
Yes.
An unusually ungifted person in my view, but there we go. But we shall see what happens. We're going much beyond what we were going to talk about. Thank you. Where can we get another dose of Warren Thornton?
You can find us Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at warrenthornton.com. And on Sunday nights, we don't have a show on Saturday. We do need a day off occasionally. On Sunday nights, you can find us 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. with a wonderful Lembit Öpik from Unprecedented TV.
And you can see the first half of that show every day, usually at 11 a.m. We're just firming up our schedule. That's how far we've got with Unprecedented now. And but you'll need to go to subscribe to Warren Thornton to get the whole show. But you get 11 o'clock in the morning. You get first half of the show. Big thank you to Warren Thornton. What I enjoy about Warren is he says it as he sees it. We can't both be right on everything there. I'll be interested to see how it pans out. Thanks very much to you. If you like what you see here and if you find it interesting, please subscribe. Go to Unprecedented TV on YouTube. It would be so good to have you subscribing. It doesn't cost anything for now. It would be wonderful. And tell your friends. Please also feel free to go to the X at Lembit Öpik or Unprecedented TV and retweet it. We love it when you repost things. And it's great for the station as well. For that, I thank you in advance for Warren Thornton's input. I thank very much, but more than anything, I thank you for having the courage of your convictions to think for yourself. That's what Unprecedented TV is all about. Lots of great shows this week and every week. And go to the archive as well. You'll find literally hundreds of programs there. And they don't have as best before date. They have stood the test of time, and hope you enjoy those too. In the meantime, I'm Lembit Öpik. That was Lembit Öpik Live on Unprecedented TV. Have a good day.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.